Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuelia, and I'm glad to have you this morning. In fact, we are glad to have you join us this morning on the show. It's a Thursday, the 6th of January, 2022. The year is just getting set to, is it just getting set to run?
Good morning, Nigerians. Welcome to Daybreak. We are super excited to be here on the program.
Well, quite a lot today on the show. We'll be looking at today being the World Day of Orphans, and we'll be discussing that vis-a-vis the rising threats of insecurity in Nigeria. And we'll also touch on the interview granted by the president yesterday. That interview is everywhere, and so we'll be taking highlights from there, and as well as taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak, which I'm sure will have quite a lot of interesting stories. Hamza Idris, the general editor of Daily Trust newspaper, will be joining us to give perspectives on the stories that make the headline. But first, let's take a look at the news highlights.
President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed the board and management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. He appointed Margaret Chuba Akadigbo as the chairperson of the board, while Mele Kyari remains the chief executive officer and Umar Ajia as chief financial officer of the company. Now, President Buhari had in September 2021 appointed Ifeanyi Ararume, a former senator, as the chairman of the board of NNPC. The president, however, suspended the planned inauguration of the board without giving reasons. Executive commissioners of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority were also appointed. Now, the appointments take effect from the date of the incorporation of the NNPC. A statement by the presidential spokesperson, Femi Adesina, revealed on Wednesday.
All right, now, other stories. Bandits have shot 2 people and abducted 3 Chinese expatriates in an attack at the Sino Hydroelectronic Power Dam, Zungeru, Ushishi local government area of Niger State. Now, Secretary to the state government, Ahmed Ibrahim, confirms the abduction but could not state if lives were lost. Also confirming the attack, the Niger State Police Command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Wasiu Abiodu, said a Chinese expatriate and a local staff are shot, while some Chinese expatriates are missing after the security engaged the bandits in a gun duel. The bandits in their numbers attacked the workers who are working on a transmission line tower along Gusase village on Tuesday evening. The police spokesman said a joint police and military tactical team at Zungeru is already on an aggressive manhunt of the hoodlums and to rescue the missing and abducted expatriates.
Elsewhere, Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Wednesday meet with stakeholders involved in the Magodo Phase 2 situation, including the Adega family, Adefala, lawyers representing families, Lagos Commissioner of Police, officers from Abuja, and more. Now, the governor says nobody is in a disagreement about the Supreme Court judgment, stressing that the state government will immediately start looking for land in Magodo from Friday.
And it's been resolved that the committee that the state government has set up before now should get to work immediately. Immediately meaning from Friday, they will be working with all the stakeholders and identifying available plots of land around Shakisha area. Drones will be flown, surveys will be made, and available plots will be identified. In the event that there are identified plots, allocations will be made timely, and what additional plots, if you don't have the right number there, will also be identified at mutually agreeable location with other stakeholders, and the government will also review the list of all of the allocations.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has met with commandants of the various police training colleges and training schools ahead of the commencement of training for newly recruited constables into the force for the recruitment year 2020-2021. IGP Baba, during the meeting which held at the force headquarters in Abuja, noted that the recruitment captured applicants from the 774 local government areas in the country. He also added that the exercise was in accordance to the directive of the President to recruit 10,000 police officers yearly for a period of 6 years. All right, now
2022. We have the mandate of Mr. President to employ 10,000 every year for the next 6 years. And we are on the third year now. So we still have the possibility of recruiting more 10,000 every year till 2025. Our recruitment reflected taking or recruiting successful candidates from all the 774 local governments of the Federation. Our intention also is to train these officers and return them back to police their states, their local governments, and their communities. Or immediately after finishing one, we intend to do the 2022, which we have already opened our quota for those interested to also apply.
And in the world of sports, Senegal have managed to secure the services of winger Ismaila Sarr ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations kickoff in Cameroon. The Hornets had earlier claimed the 23-year-old was injured, but the Lions of Teranga threatened to report them to the authorities. The 23-year-old was yet to link up with the Lions of Teranga squad after parent and Premier League side Watford claimed he was injured and not ready to take part in the competition. Senegal have not confirmed the player has already left London to link up with the team before they depart for Cameroon in readiness for their Group B opening fixture against Zimbabwe.
All right, now with that, let's take a look at the events of the 6th of January in world history, just to have a sense of what happened before now. Well, there you have it. Today in history, quite a number of issues. Now, today is World Day of War Orphans, which is what we'll be looking at, one of the issues that we'll be talking about today on the program. So we'll get into details later. But again, we also have other issues. In 1838, you have Samuel Morse presents the telegraph to the public. So together with Alfred Vail, the inventor, relayed the message: a patient waiter is no loser, over a distance of 2 miles. And I can tell you that, since from then we've seen evolution, from the telegraph. Today we have mobile phones, right? Everyone can make call to a distant location effortlessly, really. So it's quite an evolution there. Also, in 1929, you have Mother Teresa arrives in India. Now, through her tireless work in helping the poor and ill, the Albanian religious sister later received the Nobel Peace Prize and was posthumously beautified. So that's also something not to forget. In 1912, German scientist Alfred Wegener presents his theory of continental drift. His work laid the foundation for the theory of plate tectonics, which explains why continents move. So you could see, I mean, since yesterday we've been talking about science and evolution globally. Science has, brought about a lot of changes and all of that. So quite interesting facts really to remember in our history. Now let's move on to the next segment of the program, talking about the dailies on Daybreak. And we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the stories on the front pages of our papers.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, now let's take a look at some of the papers. We'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper today, and the lead story there talks about 2023 presidency. Buhari keeps mum, he keeps Tinubu, Osinbajo, Bello, Fayemi in suspense. You see that on page 6, and then it has the following riders. It says, I won't name my successor for fear of elimination. Disco's political favor. And now you also have NAS on the undemocratic, on direct primaries, ready to accept bill if revoked. Insists Kano must face judicial trial, but political solution possible if, political solution possible if. And so there's an ellipsis there. So you can catch all the details on that page. You also have cattle grazing routes, solution to farmers, and Heather's clashes. Describe PDP a failure. He says opposition says Buhari has nothing new to offer. So below the pictorial, you see legal tussle imminent as Olubadan in council endorses Balogun. Stories at the very bottom says, finally, FG gazettes bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers as terrorists. Bandits kill 2, abduct 2 Chinese dam workers in Niger. 2022, FG to tax non-resident digital firms, 6% of turnover. And Nigeria leads as Africa attracts $4.9 billion investment deals in 2021. You would also find PIA, no more petroleum subsidy by July. That's federal government declares. And then you see also NNPC board. Okadibo's widow replaces Ararome as chair. Carry still GMD. You would see also First Bank Light app promoting customer safety and convenience. So these are the major stories on the front page of our newspapers today. Quite interesting stories, if you may. The way the Blueprint newspaper puts this story about Buhari's interview yesterday about keeping Tinubu, Osinbajo, Bello, Fayemi in suspense. Quite interesting. Really, the president actually says he doesn't really care, even though that's what we heard. He doesn't care about 2023 elections, and that anybody who emerges, that's fine with him, But other experts are saying, and political watchers actually are always, talking about, the legacy of the president. How does he make sure that his legacy is preserved? Well, that's that.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with a story, Buhari, why I won't disclose my preferred 2023 candidate. The writers, their decision to protect likely successor. I will sign electoral amendment bill when reworked. And also other stories there, Kingmakers pick Lekan Balogun as Olubadan. Gazette classifying bandits, terrorists out. Order may affect IPOB. And you'd also see on page 4 on the Nation newspaper, Buhari rejects state police. Okadigbo's widow is NNPC Limited board chair. Okorocha hits Ozodinma. These are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's take a look at other papers today. Very interesting. Well, let's talk about the Daily Trust newspaper. On Daily Trust, you have quite interesting stories. If you have the lead story talks about 2023. I don't care who succeeds me, and that's according to the president, Muhammadu Buhari. He has the following writers. If I mention my preferred candidate, he will be eliminated. President says IPOB leader Kanu can't be released. So PDP kicks as Buhari rules out state police. So these are the conversations. Other stories there at the top, you would see COVID-19 variant severer than Omicron detected in France. You'd see also, finally, FG declares bandits as terrorists. Buhari replaces Ararome with Okadibo's widow as NNPC board chair. Other stories below the pictorial, pyramids ahead of the First Rise Festival in Abuja. So these are the pictorial there. You see the pyramids there, of bags of rice, somewhere in Abuja. But some time ago, we had similar pyramids, and according to investigations, people that went to that place where those pyramids were, they couldn't find anything. So I'm wondering where all the grades disappeared to. Below the pictorial, you see, I hope to see my son before I die. Father of underwear bomber, Motella, says. You can see that interview on Trust TV, the full interview actually of that interview. You will see also at the very bottom, Gombe crisis, we have reconciled Inua Goje, that's according to Buni. Vigilantes execute 11 informants in Zamfara. Ex-servicemen protest non-remittance of pension arrears and others. These are the lead stories, or I'll say rather the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust paper this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Guardian leads with a story about Southwest governors counter Buhari on state police, insist on Amotekun. And some of the writers there, why state police is not an option. Buhari defends stance. PDP chair, president is comfortable with killings in the land. You'd also see Southwest governors fault current federalism, condemns police officers with suspect of Sanwo-Olu, insists Lagos must deploy Amotekun now. You'd also find Malami confirms sending policemen to Magodo, slams Southwest governor's criticism. DAWN Commission, ARG, Okori, others reiterate call for state police. Magodo invasion illegal. Only restructuring can save Nigeria, say Adegborua Ugunye. And you'd also find other stories there on page 3. Ladoja absent as Olubadan in council, endorses Balogun as Olubadan designate. Buhari replaces Ararume with Okadigbo as NNPC board chairman. You'd also find other stories on The Guardian there about Lagos 2021 internal revenue suffers over 180 billion naira shortfall. And on page 5 on The Guardian newspaper, gunmen kidnap Chinese other workers at Zungeru Power Project. The story right there on the front page, you'd find the picture of their President Muhammadu Buhari Governor Akeredolu Sanwo-Olu, and the Inspector General of Police Usman Baba. You'd also see the statement about President Buhari saying, "I won't interfere with 2023 presidential election," Buhari promises. You'd also see, at last, federal government declares bandits as terrorists. So these are some of the major stories in The Guardian this morning.
All right, we'll take a look at The Punch now. Another Punch newspaper, the lead story says, PDP, others kick as Buhari dismisses state police, insist on grazing routes. You would see also the opposition party, Afenifere, carpet president for saying state police not an option. Ohaneze plans meeting. President dismisses plea for Nnamdi Kanu's release. We have to go back to grazing routes to address farmers, herders clashes. That's what the president is saying. And then you see other stories at the top there. Debt servicing gobs 76% of revenue. Experts, Buhari disagree on borrowings. Finally, FG releases Gazette declaring bandits terrorist. Magodo Southwest Governors SAN's attack Malami. IG AGF falls alleged impunity. And then you'd find also at the bottom, no court case stops Balogun from becoming Olubadan. That's according to Kingmakers. SFU police ambush, arrest Ogun landlords over land dispute still in court. My wife, children visited my son in U.S. prison recently. Underwear bomber father Mutallab. So, like we told you, that story, that interview is exclusive to Trust TV, and that's where they all got it from. So you can catch up on Reminiscences. It's a program on Trust TV where that interview was had with the father of the popular underwear bomber, Mutallab. So you can catch all the details. In case you've missed that, you can also watch on our YouTube channel. If you go to our YouTube channel now, you would find the video there. Now, these are the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. All right, I think that's that for our newspapers. Let's get perspectives right away. We have in the studio Hamza Idris, the general editor, Daily Trust newspaper, in the studio to give us perspectives. Let's begin with this interview with the president. It's on every front page this morning. Most of the papers led with that story. And one of the very, very loud statements that the president made was that he doesn't care about who succeeds him in 2023. What's your thought on this?
Well, why you see all the newspapers lighting on the interview is because the president rarely speaks. Most of his policy statements and all that, are by proxy. After meeting with his ministers or advisors and all that, you see one of them briefing the press. So whenever he agrees to speak with any of the platforms, you see other newspapers, television and radio stations focusing attention to hear from the horse's mouth. Yes. On the issue of him not being interested, in who succeeds him, I want to take it from two perspectives. First, Buhari, to me and to many Nigerians, is an enigma. Very difficult person to interpret. And on the other side, he believes that he will be accountable to his own action and utterances, as well as inactions. And any other person working with him should also be accountable to his actions and inactions. This is very dangerous for a third world country like Nigeria. In saner climes, in advanced societies, where the system works, leaders have that room have that advantage to allow things to work because the system is working. But even there, leaders are always interested in who succeeds them, who does what, because government is a continuum. Your legacies are very important. What you do should be preserved, and you should also be protected. Not to protect whether you are corrupt or not, but the interest, your ambition, your mission, what you want to bequeath for your country. All this should be protected, and you can only succeed in getting this when you have a worthy successor. But in fairness to him, you know, he said he kept that to his chest, thinking that if he divulge who is going to succeed him, that person might be eliminated. But you can see the general perspective, and when you look at the explanation he gave, he doesn't care because he keeps record of whatever he does.
Right.
And that's also very interesting because, you know, when he said nobody should ask him to present any evidence in court, you know, and that anybody who does that will be in trouble. That statement looks to have quite a lot, you know, underneath.
That is the military side of the president. Yeah, he thinks, and rightly or wrongly, you know, nobody has yet accused him of being corrupt or being a thief.
So being in
whatever.
trouble, what does that mean?
Yes. You see, as I said earlier, as a president, it's not about you. You may be a saint, but if the people working for you have questions to answer, you cannot, you know, escape as the leader.
Right.
Because that is why you have leaders everywhere. Everywhere. Where you don't have leaders is a recipe for anarchy, and you will not get it right. And then leaders should be accountable, and then should be responsible for the actions and inactions of the people they led.
All right. Now, as you mentioned earlier, the president rarely grants, you know, these kind of interviews, and people getting to do this for the first time is really, you know, quite remarkable. What, in your assessment, what really made the president grant the interview at this point in time?
This is New Year. He used to grant it from time to time, you know. Last year, he granted one to Arise Television. And then this time around, he granted it to channels, and we are going to also watch another one today with the NTA. But as I said, he rarely speaks in public, apart from the normal, you know, maybe while commissioning or inaugurating projects and all that. But to sit with journalists and answer questions, very rare. We can count the number, and that is why whenever he speaks, it is monumental. Whether he says the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever, people, you know, digest what he says, and then you see attacks, and then people challenging him, just the way he's being challenged with what he said now, because he has opened a very troubled posture now in the ruling party. And I think unless probably his handlers give additional explanation, all those who want to succeed him, that will be their focus now for the remaining months, meaning they will not concentrate on what they're supposed to do. And one thing with the president is that he trusts people so much that if he appoints you, he believes that you will do the right thing. And that is why I think he's getting it wrong, you know, on many fronts. If you appoint people, they should be accountable to you, and you should ask them questions. And if they are not doing the right thing, you should sack them. Very few people have been sacked by the president so far. And now he said he doesn't care who succeeds him, meaning Royal Rainbow, right? Yeah. All those who want to succeed him will now start fighting. And at the end of the day, probably they will give advantage to other political parties to deal with them.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, the president talks about quite a number of things, and we may not be able to exhaust everything, you know, in this review, but some of them touch on the issue of security, which is on the front burner, you know, in all our daily conversations, you know, as a nation, country, at large. His solution to some of the issues that, you know, the country is grappling with, you know, some think that, look, these solutions are archaic. For instance, he says the solution to head a farmer crisis, go back to the grazing routes. And when he was asked also about, you know, banditry and the others, he referred to issues of abduction as well. He referred to traditional rulers, that people in authority, governors and the rest of them should turn to traditional rulers for local intelligence and the rest of them. And no state policing as far as he's concerned, and that's not a solution. What are your thoughts around that?
Taking them one after the other, the issue of resuscitating grazing reserves, I mean grazing routes, I don't think it is going to be possible, because the whole of Abuja, if you go to the original map, the whole of Abuja is you have multiple grazing routes and then grazing reserves. So what happens now? Even the presidency, this is what those working in the Ministry of Agriculture said. I expected the president to have on convincing states to embrace ranching, to embrace Ruga, you understand, and then to also encourage herders. And herders doesn't mean Fulani. Every other tribe in Nigeria, I can assure you, you know, rear cow, or goat, or ram, or camel, because it's part of us, it's part of farming. So I expected the president to talk more on actually domesticating the animals and then embracing a modern method of agriculture. For the police, he has his reasons. He said governors will actually misuse the police to their advantage. And he cited an example of how the governors have desecrated the sanctity of the third tier of government, that is local government areas. They no longer exist. And it is partly responsible for the escalating insecurity that we have in Nigeria. Because at the local level, that is where you have ward heads, you have district heads, you have third-class emirs, you have second-class emirs, you have first-class emirs.
But if you know, if you look at it, they themselves are in danger. I mean, we've seen, some of these emirs abducted a number of times.
It is because
some of them even being killed.
They are a toothless bulldog. The Constitution did not give them any role. In the 60s, what were the roles of the
so if you look at, we are talking them providing intelligence and information. I'm wondering how that actually played out, because the experience we've had is that most times they doing so exposes them and places them in a very dangerous, position, by so doing. So how do they get protection?
And that is the dilemma. You see, assuming the traditional rulers are well protected, are recognized by the Constitution, they have the support, and they have the mandate, and then what they do is also sacrosanct, just the way governors do certain things, but with clear demarcation as to roles and responsibilities. We will have been solving most of the problems bedeviling us, because you cannot build something on nothing.
Right.
The bulk of the population is in the rural areas, and that is where you have the traditional rulers. Before, we were told that this jangali, that jangali, that is all tax, what people pay for each cow, that goes to the traditional rulers. And because of that, they monitor the movement of herders. Meaning, any herder that comes to your domain, you know he's there, and then he will be accountable to you. And if he comes this year with 5 cows, and then next year you see him with 20, you will ask him question. Probably he rustled them somewhere.
Okay.
You understand? But we no longer have this. Before, any guest that, you know, visited any community, he must first present himself at the house of the village head. He will ask him from where he came, and then he will ask him what he wanted to do. Today, people move without restrictions. Nobody cares about who does what. And all this is because we've taken the role and responsibilities of traditional rulers. And unless we recognize them, we will never get it right.
Okay.
And this also boils down to community policy. You get it. How many police officers do we have in Nigeria? If you put all the security operatives, Army, Navy, you know, Air Force, police, immigration, customs, and what have you. If you share them with over 200 million people, you realize that one maybe is responsible for taking care of the safety of hundreds of people, and it's not possible. And that is why you see governors and communities coming up with Amotekun, Ensakai, and all that. And because they are not fully structured, that is why you are having jungle justice. In our paper, we reported that the Ensakai in Zamfara killed about 11 people or 9 extrajudicially. Will the police do that?
Yeah.
So, which is, well, I mean, which is why many are saying that why not just, you know, formally, you know, legalize state policing, or maybe have some kind of vigilante arrangement that is backed by law to carry out some of these things.
So the mutual suspicion among politicians, because all this revolves around our political leaders. The political will to get it right is not there. Because if the political will is there, we will arrive. We will get it right. We can also have the state police, because already we have it. It's just that it has not been.
Yes,
exactly. It's informal.
But it's informal, and that is why it's very difficult to punish offenders. For instance, you can't use illegality to correct illegality. The youths that took arms and then killed some suspected informants, they too, in the eye of law, should be killed.
Okay. Now, still talking insecurity, yesterday the president in that interview, when asked about the whole insecurity situation in the northwest, you know, and in the northeast, the president said since coming into power in 2015, his mandate was about security, economy, and corruption, and his administration has succeeded in, you know, clamping down on Boko Haram in the northeast with the little resources available. That Nigerians should be fair, you know, in appraising the whole security situation in the country. What are your thoughts about that?
The real verdict on President Buhari will be after he leaves office. And this is our attitude. We rarely recognize our leaders while they are in power. Of course, you will not take it away from him what he did in taming Boko Haram in the northeast. He really did well. But you can see when he took over, the major crisis was Boko Haram. But now it has manifested in many ways. Even the so-called bandits is just profiling, you know, giving name. But they are all terrorists. Just yesterday now they gazetted them as terrorists. Yes. So you can see the whole of the Northwest now is infested by these miscreants. They are all over. So it is going to be very difficult for him to be treated fairly by Nigerians unless he did the magic of taming what is happening in the Northwest, in the Southeast, because you also have IPOP there.
Right.
Yes, you also have agitators in the South, even though we don't hear much about them, but at a huge expense to the coffers of the country, because the government is spending a lot of money to keep the South quiet. Yes, if they were to relax for 1 week, you will know that the South is also, you know, on a time bomb.
Okay. Okay. All right. Another thing closely related to this is the issue of food security, you know, and the efforts of government to diversify the economy, invest more heavily on agriculture. The president, you know, each time he's asked about unemployment and, you know, the current economic indices that we have, he always points to the fact that only 2.5% of Nigeria's arable land is being cultivated in the country and all of that. So the emphasis has been let people go back to the farms. But again, we have, you know, vast lands, you know, taken over by bandits and terrorists and all of that. Are we putting our focus where it should be, really, as far as that is concerned?
Yes, no serious government will toy with issue of agriculture, because people must eat first for them to do any other thing. But beyond that, you have to secure the country. We have arable land, vast land, and then willing people that are ready to farm. But what is happening is that they can't even access their farms. And that is why we are yet to get it right. Up till now, I don't think if we ever have people who are our generation that are willing to go back to farm as we have now. But the fact that the country is not secured, that is why food prices are not coming down. So for the president to be quite a legacy that will outlive him, to outlive his administration, is that he must get it right in the security architecture, so that people can go back to farm, and then the huge investment that they have made will now be seen. Because people are not really seeing the investment in agriculture, because food prices are going up almost every day. Like this year, we did not witness harvest season. You know, during harvest season, prices come down. But we conducted, you know, a poll across the country. We realized that it was just for 1 week when prices, you know, just went down slightly, and then they went up. And this is because not all people were able to tend to, you know, their farmlands because of the insecurity. So it's a serious problem. Honestly, they have done well in terms of infrastructure, which I strongly believe that what they have done will come to the fore maybe after they leave. But this has been overshadowed because we are yet to get it right in terms of security.
Okay, now let's actually get to a more personal experience this time. Today is World Day of Orphans, and if we are to localize it down here in Nigeria, we all saw, you know, the war waged by Boko Haram, you know, in the northeast that left thousands, millions of children, you know, that they call them orphans of war. Now, as someone who has covered insurgency over time, what really is your experience like?
This is a tough one. Yes, whenever I'm confronted with this question, one woman comes to my mind. A young lady, she was abducted by the Boko Haram. She was taken to the wilderness. She was raped. She became pregnant, and then she lost her voice. She could not talk. She became dumb and deaf. And then she was discovered by the military in the northern part of Borno. Now they took her, and then together with other captives and all that, and suspects, they were taken to Maiduguri prison. And that was where she was discovered to be pregnant. Then she delivered a baby. Then there was this young woman from University of Maiduguri who was also arrested and then taken into custody. She was the one taking care of her. Then later they were profiled and then found out that many of them were victims of war, not really suspects. And then the military decided to hand them over to the then governor, Kashim Shettima. We went there. In fact, I cried that day because that woman, nobody knows anything about her. Because she could not talk, and then she had a baby. Now that child is just an example of the hundreds of thousands of orphans that we have in the Northeast and now in the Northwest, in the Southeast, in the North Central. So I don't think if any organization will give you the actual number of orphans in Nigeria. And this is very dangerous because up till now, the roadmap to consolidating the gains in the Northeast is not really working the way it should. One, we have lost a generation because hundreds of youths, maybe between the ages of 13 and 25, have been wiped out by the crisis. And then you have many others who have been born and then their parents have been killed. What plans do we have for them?
Exactly. Actually, that brings me to this question. So over time, would you say the government has actually, done enough, in helping, some of these children of war? Because I remember vividly, privately, there are some people that have actually contributed to the lives of these orphans of insurgency. For instance, there's Barrister Zenda Mustafa, who has a school for orphans. Everything there is free, school fees, everything there is free. Will you say the government has actually contributed its own quota in helping out?
Yeah, when you go to Borno now, you will see hundreds of schools built by the state government. Philanthropists have also done their best, like Ahmed Indimi, and then UNICEF and others. They have all built schools. They have recruited teachers, and they are trying to see how they can provide a future for these children. But it's a Herculean task. I think there should be a deliberate effort to see that we salvage them. And I know for sure that not more than 30% of these orphans are actually in school now. Many of them are in the villages. Many others are in IDP camps. Of course, you have some temporary schools in the IDP camps, but we have to go beyond that in order to bridge the gap, because these youths, these children are a time bomb. If we fail to take good care of them, they will become a monster in the next 5, 10 years. Yes, because if they realize that they don't have a future, meaning we'll see a reincarnation of Boko Haram, we'll see a reincarnation of other violent groups, which will make the country ungovernable.
Which also leads me to another discussion, which is closely related to this about child soldiers, in Nigeria. Quite a very high number. If you look at the estimates from the United Nations, more than 3,500 between 2013 to 2017. So how are we really, dealing with, making sure that we deal with the issues, that are giving, I would say, rather factors, feeling, this recruitment that is so easy for, Boko Haram and the likes of them. When you have a high number of out-of-school children, who are also even afraid of going to the schools because they could be abducted in the schools. 2021, we saw a very high number of abduction in schools, more than 1,500 400, children were abducted. And so if you look at all of these, indicators, what does this spell, or what does this say about the need and the urgency for us to actually deal with the root issues of hunger, poverty, and the likes?
Security. Security and security. We have to secure the vast forests in the country. We demystify the terrorists. Then we bring out the captives, because millions of people in court, are in the custody of these miscreants. Because we have many communities that are being ruled by bandits, that are being ruled by terrorists. And these young people, they are watching them, they are seeing what they are doing. So for us to get it right, we have to secure our communities and then rebuild these communities. It's really huge. Nigeria is in a state of war. If not for, the resilience of the citizens, I'm telling you, we will have started moving en masse to other countries which cannot contain us. Because imagine if people in Katsina State, with a population of over 6 million, thereabout, if they now relocate to Niger, can Niger contain us? In Borno, if they move to Chad or Cameroon, can these two countries contain the population? So it's a very serious problem that requires quality leadership with focus. So our leaders must have to rise up to the occasion to address this issue. We have hundreds of thousands of child soldiers now. They know how to handle weapons. They know how to dismantle AK-47 rifle.
Terrible.
Yes, and then fix them. And they can target, whoever they want to kill, and they can eliminate that person.
Now, just recently we are seeing the repatriation of IDPs from these camps in Borno State back to their communities. But the question would be, many would say, have we really made, adequate provisions for these people to actually move back to their communities?
The governor is trying, in fairness to him, because when I was there, I know the quantum of destruction, because personally I have gone around all the local government areas in Borno, in Yobe, and in Adamawa State. And you will never get it right if you keep people in an isolated area, that is in IDP camps, giving them 3 meals a day.
Some don't even get the 3 meals.
Yes. Now, assuming they are even getting it, for how long will you continue to do that? And I think it is based on this that the governor insists that, look, we can't continue like this. We have to take these people back to their communities so that farmers can go back to farm, fishermen can go back, children can go to school, women can start doing something, which is good. And but it has to be a holistic thing. Federal government should also do its best. Of course, they are doing that through the Northeast Development Commission. They have built hundreds of houses in the state, and it's an ongoing thing. They are also building schools. I know, destruction is very easy, but rebuilding is the problem. That is why, in the first place, at community level, in fact, at household levels, we just have to get it right so that we will not even have the problems in the first place. Because once you have the problem, this Boko Haram started 2009, up to now we are battling with it. And as I said, we lost a generation, but we will not understand this until in the next 10, 20 years. Because in the Northeast, when you look at the age bracket of 15, as I said earlier, to 25, compare it with other parts of the country, it's zero there.
Okay.
Because most of these youths have been killed.
Now, also another issue, that we may need to pay attention to is the issue of mental health. A lot of these people have been traumatized as a result of the experiences that they've gone through. Do we have the capacity, to deal with this issue of mental health at a massive scale, the way we should, be dealing with it?
It's part of the components of the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and then reintegration of victims and even the villains in the Northeast. You have a center in Gombe. We also have a few other centers in Borno. I had cause to speak at one of the conferences organized in Kaduna by the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria about 2 or 3 years ago, and I cited many examples based on my experience covering the crisis, and then I traveled widely and I have seen how some of these issues are being addressed. You see, before this extremism came to Nigeria, it was visible in the Arabian Peninsula, even in Saudi Arabia. In 2008, I was among the 3 journalists invited by King Salman to Saudi Arabia. And when we went there, the Ministry of Defense, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information, they took us to where they were rehabilitating, terrorists.
We'll get right
back. It was awesome.
We'll get right back. The conversation is quite interesting. We're going to get right back to that quickly after this short break. Just stay.
Pragmatic effort is not make to see that at least they have a livelihood or be supported with an education, because education is the only thing that can make them to light the future. And that is how it should be done. But the approach is, though the state government here is doing its best, but the magnitude of the children in the streets is more than their capacity, because these children are war orphans. And you know what war orphans comes along with. It comes with psychological trauma of unpleasant experiences which carries them to, if carried to adulthood, may have a significant effect on the society. So for them to play a role, we have to sit down and plan the future for them. We should have an implementation plan where the future will be certain for us to determine or to say that these children will be better in the society. And that is only if it could be done through giving them a sound education.
Whenever under soft targets, because most of them are not even documented, for them to get any humanitarian aid, so they are the most vulnerable soft targets who be recruited if they see the opportunity for being recruited. The government needs to document them and make provision for adoption or foster them in a proper home where they will be really catered for. Their emotional, their psychosocial, and their physical health should be looked into. More humane, we should more understanding towards people, towards children, and we should be ready to adopt and foster those orphans. Need to be a lot of sensitization and putting it into action. Sensitize, follow up, implement, evaluate it, monitor it. It cannot end just like that out of the blues.
Morning of Monday, we finished praying our early morning prayers. Then we had gunshot. My father call all of us to his room. We were thinking it was soldiers. Then, but few minutes later, 3 people came into our house with guns and pushed us outside. Then they told my parents to stay and tell us to go inside. We are just about going inside. We had gunshot. When we turned up to see what happened, they have killed both of them. Then myself and my younger brother, my sister, we trekked from Bama to Konduga, that is 25 miles in one day. We saw people leaving the town in confusion. I want to be a medical doctor because I want to help the other people that they don't have, those that they are vulnerable, they don't have energy to do. If I go to their house, if I see their parents, I'm thinking their parent is my parent. That's why I'm very happy. If I see them.
Well, there you have it. It's a sad story, really. Some of the experiences of these people, that have been involved. And thankfully, we have philanthropists, people who are willing, to go out of their way. Mm-hmm. People who even do not have a reason to, to engage in that sense. But they, despite all the odds, decided that, look, I'm going to do this. And they're doing service to humanity wholeheartedly. And we pray that God will reward them. But let's get back to where we stopped earlier. You were talking about your visit to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So maybe you take us through your experience, yes, at the time as far as de-radicalization.
Yes, I was trying to make a comparison of the de-radicalization process. Even there, they had die-hard criminals, die-hard terrorists, die-hard extremists. But they were able to turn around, to change many of them, because I visited the maximum prison where they keep the die-hard terrorists, the extremists, yes, who, of course, were willing to kill themselves and then to kill any other person that does not believe in what they think is right. But the de-radicalization process is very expensive because you need to listen to them and then you need to give them superior argument. Gradually, you see them coming down, changing position, becoming more understandable. Then from there, you now move them to the medium, and then from there, you take them to the minimum custodial center, where they have access to all privileges of life. I'm telling you, when I went there, it is as good as 5-star hotel here, where they live, in terms of feeding, in terms of recreation, and all that. So these people, when they are fully reformed, they are in a better position to now de-radicalize others. Mm-hmm. You now redeploy them to the society where they preach, where they talk to youth, where they talk to elders, where they talk to the disprivileged. And then you, at the end of the day, you see it. It's not that they have eliminated extremism, but you don't hear about it. So I am hoping that in Nigeria we should also have things like this. Because as I speak with you, many of these extremists, they have been lumped up together with other criminals, armed robbers, and all that. Mm-hmm. And you don't have the right people who will now advance superior arguments. Because you will listen to them first, they will tell you that, no, if you are not A, you can never be B, and whatever. So I hope that we get it right in the radicalization process. Because as we are witnessing now, many of them are going back to square one. You de-radicalize them, you release them, and then before you know, they go back to the trenches, which is very bad. And as we have seen in the, the video we played a moment ago, people like Barrister Zanna, because he has passion for this. Mm-hmm. He has many graduates to his credits now. And he started his center, Future Prowess, even before the Boko Haram crisis. It predates the Boko Haram crisis. And in his school, when you go, you see the children of soldiers killed by the Boko Haram. Mm-hmm. You see the children of the Boko Haram assailants. You see the children of traditional rulers and all that. All of them are orphans. Mm-hmm. And he's taking care of them. He has changed their thinking. Mm-hmm. That tendency of vengeance is very low. Because I remember those days when we interview the orphans, when you ask them, what do you want to become? You can see one said he wants to become a doctor. Before, he will tell you, I want to become a soldier. Mm. Why do you want to become a soldier? He said, I will go and kill soldiers. His colleagues. Why? Because they invaded our community, and then while fighting with the Boko Haram, they mistakenly killed my father, so I want to kill them. Or I want to become Boko Haram. There are many who say they want to become Boko Haram because of the atrocities committed. But it's no longer the same because of the serious intervention of the right people who are gradually changing the mindset of the local population, that it cannot be a war of attrition. Right. We just have to find a final bus stop to the craziness of
all right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here. From the newspaper review, we dragged you into talking about your personal experience on the field. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Hamza Idris, the general editor, Daily Trust newspaper. We look forward to having you again on the program.
Inshallah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll be talking some more about insecurity and vis-a-vis this conversation about war orphans. Today is International Day for War Orphans, and we have Dr. Yahuza Ahmad who will be joining us to talk about this. Please stay with us.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State, Malan Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadaria Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, to give us, his perspective on the whole conversation about security in the country, we have security consultant Dr. Yahuza Ahmed here in the studio with us. Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
You're welcome. All right, now before we begin this conversation, let's take a look at, extracts from the president's interview from yesterday.
I think you can recall that when I was campaigning, right, 2015, there were three fundamental issues: security, economy, and fighting corruption. And for Nigerians to be fair to this administration is to try and find out, from the time we won the election in 2015 to now, in the three promises we made, improving security, improving the economy, and trying to fight corruption. Well, securing the country in the northeast, if you ask anybody from Borno State, from Yobe State, from Adamawa State, there were a number of local governments, about 18, that were in the hands of Boko Haram. None of any local government now is strictly in the hand of Boko Haram or ISWAP. So, in that respect, we have done something. In the economy, don't forget, and I challenge so many people to go and check with the central bank or NNPC, the production from 1999 to 2014 was 2.1 million barrels a day, average production, at the average cost of $100 American per barrel. When we came, somehow the militants were unleashed in the South. Production went down to 500,000 barrels a day. And I think by some fabulous coincidence, the price again collapsed to about $37 per barrel. But look at what we did within the time frame and the resources available to us relative to the government we inherited from. In the Northwest, it's the same people, the same culture, stealing each other's animals, killing each other, burning villages. So I think the only language they understand, we discuss it thoroughly with the law enforcement agencies, the service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, is to go after, the terrorists. We label them terrorists, and we are going to deal with them with such. And I believe if you go to those constituencies in the Northwest and North Central, within the last 4 weeks, there are improvements in the security.
Well, there you have it, coming from the president's interview yesterday, where he actually said quite a number of things, and talking about the economy, talking about the fight against insecurity, the state of the nation, general state of the nation, in terms of the unity in the country, talking about national cohesion and all of that. But we would like to focus more on the issue of security, because that's where we have a major challenge. Everyone is talking. But as far as the president is concerned, the security of the nation is quite better than it was.
I think this is his own personal opinion, but not the larger opinion of the people and the practical reality on ground. The president says that Nigerians should genuinely appraise him. So when we want to appraise the president, I want to commend the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to the fact that in terms of budgetary aspects, in terms of the resources imputed in terms of finances, yes, we commend him, because there has never been any president or any government since independence that ever budgeted and spent and also have a perfect procurement process in terms of documentation and reporting compared to what he does. That is commendable. But is there results? That's a big question. I'm asking President Muhammadu Buhari to ask himself.
The president said in the past 6 weeks, yes, there have been immense progress that has been made as far as the Northwest is concerned.
Well, I will expose certain things at this this moment of time, and be rest assured, I will blow the trumpet if time permits us for so many things. Let me take you round. The Boko Haram insurgents, yes, they have ambushed and attacked so many of our military, despite the fact that the federal government under Buhari administration have made a lot of inputs into purchase of hardware and other armaments. But yet, why has there been so many ambushed and so many attacks and so many killings of many of the military? Looking at the report, the audit report of the number of arms that have been seized from the police to wrong hands, that is the 2019 report, which we don't have the 2020 and the 2021. it will shock you. So if we look at the situation of Northeast, yes, of course, there is some level of progress. But President Muhammadu Buhari should remember that at a time when he came into power, there is no much issues in the Northwest and North Central. So does that mean that he has been sleeping for the last 6 to 7 years? Or the fighting security under corruption or fighting corruption under security? Because we find it very, very difficult when we had a statement credited to the NSA saying that huge amount of money have been given to either the military, to all the security operatives, the agencies that he's supposed to be the overseer and the monitor, and the manager who's supposed to be reporting to the president on how much was imputed and if those hardwares have been purchased. After 5 to 6 years, between 5 to 6 years, we had the National Security Advisor in a statement credited to him through the BBC Hausa. He made mention very clear that huge amount of money have been budgeted and have been given for the purchase of arms and ammunitions. But I don't know, I want everybody to understand, in bold, in caps, and in quote, I don't know where this money, how this money was spent. I don't know where the arms are, and I did not see anything. And yet, few weeks after, we had the Minister of Finance, through her permanent secretary, in defense and in response to the allegation made by some of the security agencies that they have not been given money to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yet, the permanent secretary, Federal Minister of Finance, disputed the allegation and presented a figure. Almost 2 trillion was given in less than 8 months. And at the same time, we have heard so many times when the Lai Mohammed was saying that they know the finances and sponsors of the Boko Haram and banditry among other criminal activities. And yet, you cannot fish them out. You cannot deal with them. And as President Muhammadu Buhari made mention in his interview yesterday, that it is the same culture, the same people, and the same group, the same ethnicity, the same religion in northwestern Nigeria killing themselves. I, Dr. Yahuza Getso, have been mentioning in the since Buhari emerged as the president, and since this activity of bandits and kidnappers that have been happening in the northwestern part of the country, I have made it very clear that if government and security agencies don't know where these criminals are, I know where they are and I know their locations.
Okay.
And I challenge each member of the state assembly. I challenge each of the governors of the northwestern state and north central state. I challenge all the traditional leaders. I challenge all the religious leaders and philanthropists, as well as youth and other civil society activists and groups that are from northwestern Nigeria and north central Nigeria, for anybody, any wordhead, to come and tell me that he don't know where these bandits are. I said I know. I am from northern Nigeria. Okay. I'm from Kano State. I'm from Gwarzo local government. And I have been to all political wards and all the communities and all the settlements in 19 northern states. There is no nooks or cranny or difficult terrain that I don't know in West Africa. So because that's my expertise.
Which makes the
it is very clear that I know and we know. When I say we, including President Muhammadu Buhari himself, because he is from the north. So we know who are these criminals, we know their foreparents, and we know they are their ancestors. And they have been indigenous of this region in the last 600 years. So how can you tell me that you have not been able to deal with them for 6 years? Are you sleeping?
Which seems to validate what the president said about, for governors and people in authority to go back to traditional rulers for local intelligence to deal with this issue of insecurity. Does that validate that
at this moment in time? Does that mean that you have been sleeping in your room, that you don't even know who to give instruction until now, after thousands and hundreds and thousands have been killed? After a huge amount of resources have been burnt, after many women have been raped, after many children have been assassinated and killed, slaughtered, after many old age have been shot by bandits and criminals who are living within us.
So are you saying...
So it means that the Inspector General of Police that you appointed, the present Inspector of Police and three other inspectors of police that we have had before, or rather two, and the Chief of Army Staffs that we have had, the Atahiru that died, the Borate and others, the Chief of Air Staff, among others. Does that mean that you have not been giving them the instructions? We have in records. There were so many instructions given to go and deal, to go and do, to go, and you have imputed huge amount of resources. We are not disputing that.
But haven't we had a form of relief, from Boko Haram for quite a moment?
Well, it was a message when last the president went to Maiduguri. Yes, of course. Like I made mention that we commend the effort of our of the President Muhammadu Buhari in terms of, to some extent, managing the situation in the eastern part of the country. But his performance, if we are praising him for North Central and Northwest, is barely very, very poor. In fact, to some extent that we can say that he has not gone up to 5 degrees in terms of making it a portion of 100%. If we are looking at 100% degree, he have not performed up to 5% of that apportion of 100 when you want to apportionate it in terms of degree of speed of how he supposed to manage the security situation in North Central and Northwestern part of the country. Let me tell you, when Buhari administration started, the attack in Niger State, for example, in North Central, let me take just one state in each of the two regions, that is the North Central and the Northwest. It started from only one local government, and it started from only one political ward, and it started from only 1 or 3 communities. Alawa, Erana, Galadima. So around that cycle, you can easily manage it where you can easily use the front end, the first respondent. The first respondent to internal security should be the Nigerian police. But President Muhammadu Buhari went into his slumber, and he keeps slumbering until when it escalated up to 12 local governments.
Okay, now...
not only 12 local governments. Okay. I want to tell you that there is nowhere that is safe in northwestern Nigeria, in north central Nigeria. Okay, I'm coming. Let me take you to Northwest. Let me take you to Northwest. Moving to Northwest, at a time when this activity of bandits started, I have had only 27 communities where we cited and we made a clear presentation before the federal government and the security agencies that in these 27 to 28 communities, there are bandits, there are kidnappers, or they are using it as a hideout. So they can be dealt, they would have been dealt with at that time. They wouldn't have had opportunity to have corroboration and collaboration and partnership with foreigners who are mostly the importers of the arms.
All right, now
to some extent for it to escalate to up to 30 local government in Katsina
taken from what a lot of security experts have saying, a lot of people have said that look, because of the number of the police officers that we have in the country, largely insufficient, to actually man the places that we need them to. These bandits have been able to penetrate the places that they did because of ungoverned spaces, in many instances.
That is not ungoverned space.
And the president said that no state policing or any such arrangement that will be, that will provide the solution that we need and all of that. What's your thinking around that?
Well, I condemn in totality. I support Mr. President in that regard, that state police will even push us to the worst, from frying pan to fire.
Why is that?
Simply because we have seen how the self-centered, selfish governors that we have had over the time have been using even the federal police at a time when there is election, at a time when they want to manage situation, at a time when they want to relate with opposition group. So we have seen how police unprofessionally have been exhibiting themselves and presenting themselves as a thugs or errands to the politicians, especially to the governors.
So
we have records of what happens during the inconclusive election.
You do not think that there is need to decentralize the police in any way?
Yes, of course. What we need.
How do we bridge the gap?
What we need is to find a way of reorienting the psychology of a common police rank and file to the Inspector General of Police, because from rank and file to the Inspector General of Police, they are all involved in all the allegations.
So we have enough policemen. That's
no,
what you're
not
saying.
at all. Not at all. Yes, of course.
It's
we
just
don't
a
have
problem
adequate.
of orientation. That's
yes,
what
of course.
saying.
No, I have started listing. I didn't say that's the only. I've started listing. One, we must change their psychology in terms of orientation. We must change the vocabulary and curriculum we are using in building the capacity and training and orienting the Nigerian police force.
Well, is that really the problem?
And at the same time, we need to recruit because we don't have adequate. We don't have adequate manpower. I have been making a carrying of clarion call and an advocacy to President Muhammadu Buhari government and any other government that if we could engage, because the way they do the recruitment process for the leadership, that is the way we're supposed to manage the security situation also. So if you are using the polling unit, the political ward, and the local government, as well as the constituencies, so then we expect that at least 40 per polling unit used between the age of 17 and 22 should be engaged.
How?
Okay.
At least if you have 40 per polling unit.
Engage how?
In a political, ward, to be engaged, to serve, to employ, to recruit them into the security architecture.
As
so that
police officers?
Not only police officers, because we don't have enough military army, we don't have enough air force, we don't have enough navy, we don't have enough DSS. So if you have 40 from each political polling unit, in a political ward that you have 10 polling units, you are going to have 400. In a local government that you have 10 political wards, you are going to have 4,000. So if you can randomly select 500 out of 774 local governments that we have and engage them, recruit them, provide them with necessary required basic trainings and distribute them among the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Police, Civil Defense, Immigration, Custom, and other law enforcement agents, and also squarely build the capacity of some of the community agents, the non-formal structures, forest marshal, the other hunters, to build their skills, because we have many intelligence among them that are even better than some of the sitting generals, some of the sitting colonels, some of the sitting coward police commissioners and DIGs that we have that today, cannot even travel between Kaduna and Abuja that we always fly on.
Okay. So today is World Day, of war orphans. And then, locally here, we've seen, I'm still going to put this question to you. We've seen how, the Boko Haram insurgency ravaged, the northeast and left hundreds, millions, of orphans of war. Would you say Nigeria has really done enough, to help these orphans so far?
Well, with deep sorrow and sadness and concern, I want to use this medium to condole Nigerians for the death of late Bashir Usman Tofa. Because the issue of orphan and less privilege, or the issue of orphan specifically, as it is the day of orphan, I want to tell you that we shouldn't have allowed it to be the government responsibility alone. Of course, government is supposed to have served as a coordinating to serve as a coordinating agency or as a coordinating team to lead the process. But I want to tell you, if you allow, in situation where we find ourselves in northeastern part of the country, looking at the number of IDPs that we have, that I thought that have been closed as a notice was given by His Excellency, the Governor of Borno State, Umar Adam Zulum. If at all he closed them, what I expected the community, because I know so many philanthropists, so many business tycoons, so many individuals, farmers that are cultivating, in producing in thousands of sacks and so on and so forth. So northeastern part of the country is not a poor environment. Only that the people, my relatives from northeastern part of the country, because my grandfather came, who born the grandfather of my mother came from Borno State. So I have to, they are my relatives, and I cannot dissociate myself from them. I have been to all part of Borno State, the old Borno State and the old Gongola State. So if at all we will be fair, government shouldn't be the only solely responsible for managing the issues of orphan. Looking at the culture of the northeastern part of the country, the history of the northeastern part of the country, the ethnicity, and the general background of what Nigeria constitutes, for who are the people of northeastern part of the country, especially Borno. So I am using this medium to call on all and sundry to please those among our philanthropists, the people that have money in banks, useless resources that they have been saving in banks and wasting in many other parts of the world that we know. Because I want to tell you that I have conducted analysis of the number of people per local government. And I know there is no local government and no political ward in Borno State, in the present Borno State, and the old Borno State that comprises Yobe and Borno. There is no political ward that do not have one indigene either living there or living in Nigeria, other part of Nigeria, or living outside Nigeria that cannot be able to take at least 30% responsibility of those orphans.
We have quite a number of them.
So why can't we collaborate? We need to commend the governor for his efforts. But how do we compliment him? Because government alone cannot manage those issues. Let's be optimistic and let's be realistic. And other philanthropists, like I know Dangote have been making a lot of effort in that regard, but I want to tell the whole world that I have been to all IDPs in northeastern part of the country, Borno especially, and Yobe. And having gone there in the year 2018, 2017, 2018, 2019, and part of 2020, I also visited some. I believe sincerely that if we can be honest, we can be able to build their skills, because we cannot take the continued responsibility. They need to be guided to acquire a certain skills: tailoring, carpentry, other mechanical engineering of repairing machine and the cars and so on and so forth. There are a lot of resources that can be tapped. You don't even need to borrow from Bauchi State or from Adamawa State or so. No, within the Borno and Yobe itself, there are a lot of untapped resources that can be tapped and utilized to build the capacity of these orphans so that we stop living on a bombshell. Because the way they were left uncared, the way they were left unmanaged, and the way the camps I visited, I told you that I have visited no IDP camp in northeastern Nigeria that I have not visited.
Okay. Now,
so if we are really serious, the traditional institutions, the huge amount of money you are wasting for other traditional engagement, convert part of that money. I'm not saying that we should stop promoting our culture, but let's be realistic and look at the dangers these guys are posing on us, or we are posing on ourselves. And we are not promoting a culture because we are introducing something very new. We don't have culture whereby if there is any open will be left behind in northern Nigeria. Okay. So we need to be careful.
Okay, now let's talk about education. We all know, how the insurgency brought about the disruption of learning in that part of the country. So how would you say we are faring so far in getting some of these children, back in school and educated as well?
Well, generally, the insurgency as well as the banditry and kidnapping issues around have affected the educational institutions or the educational development in entire northern Nigeria. and which, if we are really organized, if we can start today and speed up, probably in the next 100 years we can be able to fix some of the troubles that have been caused by the activities of the Boko Haram and others. Yes, of course, like I made mention, northeastern part of the country, we have so many scholars. We have so many professors. We have so many holders of doctorate degree and so many unemployed youths, graduates from thousands of universities. I know many of them even in Abuja who are either riding motorcycle, or even some of them, I know a graduate from northeastern part of the country who is selling pure water and selling water on the street of Abuja. So if at all we can mobilize the government of Borno State and the federal government, as well as the institutions, formal and non-formal institutions, that is the universal basic education, the state primary education, and the local government education authorities, as well as the other stakeholders, need to sit down to develop a strategic action plan for how to kind of face the challenges we have had as a result of Boko Haram activities and other criminal activities, ISWAP and so on and so forth, in the last 10 years or thereby. So if we could do that, I'm very optimistic that we can fix some of them. They have destroyed so many schools, so we cannot say that we must have the infrastructures before the we revive or we fix the issues. People of Borno have been learning under a tree. I could remember that in 1984, 1985, and 86, I even went to Borno myself for acquiring the Quranic education, and I know that part of the times I have been spending during the vacation, the Western education during vacation, I used to take my allo and go there, spend 3 weeks and come back, and I know that we have been learning under the tree or under the shades, or sometimes under. So I think some of those cultures need to be imbibed and need to be utilized in determining and building and saving the future of this vulnerable youth. Otherwise, there will be a violent and at a time when they will explode the bomb, everybody in Nigeria, not only in northeastern part of the country, will really suffer.
Now, aside education, of course, after educating people, you have to look for a way of engaging them productively. We are talking about high rate of unemployment in the country. And yesterday, the president in his interview, referred to the fact that only about 2.5% of Nigeria's arable land, is being cultivated. So, for you to put to use these human resources, you need education, but aside education, you have to find a way to engage them. And to do that, you need investment, in those areas. How do we attract investment to some of these crisis-prone areas?
Let me tell you, the best way to attract investment is to fight corruption. That is why I blame, and up till tomorrow, I still accuse President Muhammadu Buhari of his inability to manage corruption issues in Nigeria.
This is your opinion.
Yes, of course, my opinion was
You say his inability. The president always make reference to the judicial system. I mean, for him to be able to fight corruption, he is not he's not the judge, jury, and executioner.
Let me tell you
in a democratic dispensation.
Let me tell
like
you
this.
one thing.
He needs other systems,
let me tell you
to fight corruption.
For you
so
to
he
have,
has always complained about
for you
this
to have a
weakness in
productive youth in northern Nigeria, and in southwestern Nigeria, and south, and southeast. Each of these regions have peculiarities of what you need to do to fix and reduce the number and level of unemployment. You don't even need what government need to do is to provide enablers, to have enabling environment for people to operate. Let me tell you, if you take the entire northwestern part of the country, there are less than 30 local governments that I'm very optimistic that if they could be well utilized, they can feed Nigeria for 7 years in a one season of farming. Buhari administration, I commend him for a number of policies that he brought in terms of investment that you have made mentioned. Because he invested huge amount of money and other resources in terms of making the productive policies that have not been useful, like digital microfinance and so many other agro-allied related policies, and imputed huge amount of money through the central bank and other institutions in collaboration with so many UN agencies, USAID, CEDA, DFID, among others, which I know. And I have so many evidences. And of course, it used to shock me and used to feel crying, because I know practically how much policies have been made and how much resources have been imputed
but how
in
much
implementing.
results have we gotten?
That is the question. That's why I'm going. That's why I'm going.
Some of these farmers cannot even go to the farm. Sometimes even when they, they can't go back to.
It is not even. Forget about even the security context. Let me tell you, if at all the 50% of the cultivatable land that have no security challenges have been cultivated in one annual season, it was a rainy season and irrigation, I want to tell you that Nigeria, we can sustain ourselves in terms of agricultural productivity, in terms of food, and even import outside, export, I mean, for 7 years. But the problem is, government made the declaration that fertilizer is going to be sold at the rate of 5,000 naira. That year, 2015 and 2016, because I am a farmer, it's part of what I do for a living, and I want to tell you that I bought fertilizer during that year at the rate of 13,000 up to 17,000 to some extent. Yet, we have law enforcement agents, the same fertilizer to have been bought by government and put not for sale. You go to the markets at Mayadua, at Charanchi, at Kwantagora, at Lafia, at Kefi, at all parts of the country, you still see it on sale. Despite the fact that you have the police, divisional police officers, you have the local security officers, that is the representative of the DSS, you have the civil defense, you have all mechanisms to ensure that you enforce that law so that people have access to manure, to fertilizer and other agricultural inputs, so that the production will rise. And once you have the rise in production, you will have the rise in reducing the cases of unemployment.
So our problem here
huge amount of all this money, microfinance, whatever, NIRSAL, go back to the same members of the National Assembly and their allies, go back to the same members of the Senate and their allies. Most of the money given have been paid to their in-laws, their relatives, their errands, rather than that's what's supposed to go to the common man. So I commend Buhari in that regard. He made a lot of policies, but there is no monitoring and there is no supervision and there is no tracking mechanism that have been utilized to checkmate those economic inputs and for them to provide results. So that is why, in that regard also, Buhari is an absolute failure.
So our problem here is implementation from everything you've just said here.
And the corruption. Yeah, I put all together in the, because like I mentioned, if you have the fertilizer being announced by the government that it is supposed to be sold at 5,000 naira, if you go to these government stores, at the local government, at the state, wherever you go, you can't find it. But you go to market, it is there available. You have all the police moving around. They move with their vehicles. They go and collect stipend from commuters at the side of the market. But still this fertilizer in the market is being sold at the rate of 13,000 naira, 12,000 naira, 17,000 naira.
Blame it on the marketer. The marketer probably bought it from somewhere as well.
So that's somewhere. That's somewhere, that is where corruption comes around.
Well, this is quite
That's somewhere, that is where the president is supposed to have a tracking and monitoring mechanism.
I think we're going to continue this another day. It's been quite an interesting conversation with you, Dr. Yahaya.
Thank you. Well, we've been speaking with Dr. Yahuza, and he's been giving us quite very interesting thoughts. But we must tell you that opinions expressed by our guests are entirely theirs and not of Trust TV. That's also very important. Now, from that, we now wrap up the show. It's been quite interesting. Connect with us on our social media handles and also follow the discussions on our YouTube. This is being streamed live every morning. You can also watch from YouTube and also follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, as a matter of fact, so that you can get other updates there.
Well, before we go, I'd like to say this. I'm calling on philanthropists, civil society organization, individuals, that we should join hands, help an orphan in need. If you can, 1 or 2 or 3, this will help make a difference. I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you for staying tuned.
And I am Ayuba Elia. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.